Madam Speaker, with your leave, I rise to make just a brief contribution. I was brief this morning. I'll be brief today as well. In support of the amendments being proposed for the Banking Bill 2023, and in particular to focus on the something that the member for number 8 alluded to, in that St. Kitts and Nevis unfortunately finds itself either last or second to last in a number of issues relating to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank agenda for strengthening our finance sector. And sometimes you have to look a little beyond the veil as to why that might be the case. And just for information purposes for those in the Parliament and those listening, there is an agenda that has been set out by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and I just want to look at a couple of them, two of which we are dealing with today, which is the banking bill, and the other one is the amendment to the ECCB agreement. That's the other one. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 member states listed here: Anguilla, Antigua, Dominica, Grenada, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent. When it comes to this bill, up until a few weeks ago, we were second to last in implementing this bill. When it comes to the one we'll do later today, we are dead last in terms of implementing the bill. When it comes to the banking licensing regulations 2018, we are second to last. When it comes to the banking abandoned property regulations, we are dead last. When it comes to amendments to the payment system rules, second to last. A whole set of legislation that we're just last or second to last. But why is that? Now, when you look at the critical part of the banking bill that will be up for amendment, is that the act is primarily trying to strengthen the corporate governance framework through the introduction of a few things. One, Prime Minister mentioned, a vetting process for officers and board nominees of its licensees prior to appointment or election. So you have to twist your mind to say, why is it that St. Kitts and Nevis, who hosts the ECCB Bank, heading to Frigate Bay by the big roundabout, a big edifice that you can pick up from anywhere across St. Kitts, the home and the hub, the financial center of the Eastern Caribbean. Why is it that for some really simple changes that a government would not want to aggressively pursue and lead the way in change? Well, I don't know. Perhaps because this particular amendment would bear or make bare some of the issues that existed in the prior dispensation as it related to directors on a national bank board. Is it the case that some directors may have fallen afoul to these amendments that we would have to have had come here in this Parliament to debate? Because the reality is, based on where we sit, previous directors on boards like National Bank may not have passed the test to sit on those boards. And in fact, because they had ended up on the boards, it may have signaled and indicated to the Eastern Caribbean Bank that we actually need to legislate this Because imagine a regulator is looking, they have gone ahead, created an agenda to improve our financial sector. And perhaps they didn't think that if you're going, let's say, I don't know, maybe you're going in to see in the church, let's say, and maybe it's not the best thing to wear, let's use a man, because I have the minister, senator here looking at me. Maybe it might not be the best thing for a man who has on a Speedo brief or something to walk into the church and bear himself. Maybe it is not, well, I don't believe that God is going to punish people and so on because you don't know his circumstances. Maybe you don't have to say not to do that. So you may have regulators who think that you don't have to say some basic things. That if you're going to put a director on a board to help manage the largest financial institution in the Eastern Caribbean Bank, well, that person ought not to be in financial trouble. I don't think maybe they thought they had to spell that out and say, look, if you owe the bank X amount of million, if you maybe have some ties to that bank, then you can't go now sit on that same board to go make a determination about how you're going to settle that debt to the bank. I'm just giving an example. And sometimes you would think that you don't have to spell that out. But I believe, unfortunately, that situations arose that led the regulators to say, you know what? Just to be sure we understand what is going on here, we will put a vetting process for officers and board nominees of its licensees prior to appointment or election. And then have what you will call the normal due processes, appeal process, so that anyone feel aggrieved by the position has recourse, and so on and so on. Because sometimes you believe, like you have a road, only 2 lanes, 1 lane going one way, 1 lane going next way. You don't necessarily put up a barrier sometimes in certain places to stop people from going over on the next road, because it's just understood you really ought to be driving on the left-hand side of the road. Me saying that. Right? And so nobody had to tell our Prime Minister, who is the Minister of Finance, to thoroughly, as best as he possibly could, vet the potential directors for the board before suggesting them for appointment. In fact, in the absence of this, the government still went through its own vetting process before appointing members to the board. That is an example of good governance, even in the absence of law or regulation that guides that. And so this bill will help usher in what should be the norm. But now it is legislated so as to prevent a situation where somebody may owe a financial institution millions, I don't know, or thousands, millions of dollars. And they are now going to be the ones almost effectively almost put in charge to sort out the debt management problems that may have existed. And so I want to commend the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank on their continued efforts to strengthen our Eastern Caribbean union and make us a stable union as it relates to our currency and its currency management. And as we seek to strengthen the frameworks of our banking system, we thank them for pushing forward on this agenda. And we have given the commitment, as the Prime Minister would have mentioned, that we would seek not to be last in these things, unless there is some big problem. And the thing is that I don't even think we have any issue. Any issue has been raised with the proposed amendments.
Since 2018 it was raised.
2018. And they will know we can't find any reason as to why it was delayed. So somebody looked at that, and as far as I understand, it is the Minister of Finance that is responsible for leading the charge and bringing this to our Parliament. And so a previous Minister of Finance sat on this for 4 years. And that Minister of Finance was an accountant too? Or is? Or I don't know. 4 years. So sometimes it is necessary, Madam Speaker, to look a little behind the veil to understand what positions are kept. It also falls in line with an unfortunate situation that St. Kitts and Nevis found itself in, when for the first time in our history, I don't remember if it's 2016, 2017, or 2018, around the same time, that the same ministry refused to allow the publication of the IMF report to this country, because perhaps something in that report did not fit into the narrative that the Minister of Finance at the time wanted to pursue. First time in our recent history that we are aware of that the IMF was not given authority to release its report as they do every year, so that we can consume it and accept some of what they say and push back on some of what they say. In fact, since we have gone or come to government, there has been a report by the IMF, correct, Mr. Prime Minister?
Correct.
And immediately following the procedures, they have been made public. You think everything in there we like to see? There are some suggestions that are being made that will take serious consideration before we move in that direction, or if we would move in that direction. But it is part of our responsibility in pursuit of a real good governance agenda to lay bare these issues that are germane to our stability in our financial sector. But again, it was part of this narrative that we have to control all the information that is going out. We can't have this negative tone. It is the mantra. Even if things are falling apart, people would say things like, the party is stronger than ever. I'm just giving an example, Madam Speaker. Where you create this illusion to pretend as if all is well. What he said? If you not see no IMF report with none there, or something so? That's what he said, right?
Correct.
But we know it's there. So it falls into the same attempt in the past to conceal things to pursue a particular agenda. And I am very heartened that the government is taking the position that we will not pursue that particular route, and we will bring the legislation to this Parliament to be debated by members. We may lay on the table the reports from the respective departments and statutory bodies, and we're going to continue to look through and peruse through our legislation to ensure that we're doing it for all that exist and putting them in order. We know that some have, a lot of work to do to get them to this point, but we are committed in that endeavor because I believe that the people will always value openness and transparency and accountability more than anything else. And so we give the commitment to pursue this agenda, as many of our Caribbean colleagues, 6 and 7 of them in most cases, have already pursued, especially those that have been in limbo for quite some time. So again, I want to commend the government for bringing this forward, and I want to commend those in this House to support the continued transparency and progressive steps to making our economy and our financial sector stronger. With those few words, Madam Speaker, may it please you.